we'll go ahead and get started here. So welcome everybody to this very momentous evening for the Monroe County Council. I'm very confident and hopeful that we'll have our 2021 budget processes fully finalized by the end of the evening tonight. So before we get started, as we always do, we'll do a quick roll call of all of our members present. Looks like everybody's here. So I will start. So make sure your microphones are not muted and indicate by voice that you're present when I call your name. Councilmember Deckard?
Here.
Councilmember Hawk?
Here.
Councilmember Iverson?
Here.
Councilmember McKim?
Here.
Councilmember Munson?
Here.
And Councilmember Wiltz?
Here.
All right, that's everybody. Very good. So tonight we are going to do our second reading of our adoption for the 2021 budgets for the Monroe Fire Protection District, the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District, and for Monroe County. Councilor Wiltz will begin here with the Monroe Fire Protection District, please.
Council, this is the second reading of Ordinance 2020-43, Monroe Fire Protection District. Be it ordained by the Monroe County Council that for the expenses of Monroe Fire Protection District for the year ending December 31, 2021, the sums herein specified are hereby appropriated and ordered set apart out of the several funds herein named and for the purposes herein specified, subject to the laws governing the same. Such sums herein appropriated shall be held to include all expenditures authorized to be made during the year, unless otherwise expressly stipulated and provided for by law. In addition, for the purposes of raising revenue to meet the necessary expenses of Monroe Fire Protection District, the property tax levies and property tax rates as herein specified are included herein. Budget Form 4B for all funds must be completed and submitted in the manner prescribed by the Department of Local Government Finance. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval by the Monroe County Council. Fund 8603, Special Fire General, adopted budget amount of $10,878,973, an adopted tax levy amount of $8,590,521, and an adopted tax rate of 0.3622. In Fund 8691, Special Cume Fire, an adopted budget of $1,042,546, just jumping right in there. An adopted tax levy of $789,797 and an adopted tax rate of 0.0333 for a total adopted budget of $11,921,519. An adopted tax levy of $9,380,318 and an adopted tax rate of 0.3955.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the Monroe Fire Protection District. Are there any council comments or questions? Yes, Ms. Wiltz?
I didn't actually make a motion.
She reads the ordinance and now she needs to make them, and now a motion.
Yeah, go.
My apologies. So council, I do make a motion now to approve ordinance 2020-43 Monroe Fire Protection District 2021 budget.
As read.
As read earlier.
Yeah, I think that was a motion before. I'm sorry, I don't think there's a need for additional process.
Take it as a motion, yeah.
But I will second that. I think reading it is the motion to adopt.
Okay. All right, so any questions or discussion on the Monroe Fire Protection District second reading? From council. Yes, Mr. McKim.
I'm just, I suspect that I will have comments and questions about this budget, but I believe there's a member of the public that may want to speak to this. And so I'm going to defer my questions till after that member of the public speaks.
Okay, very good. And if there are members of the public who would like to provide comment on this budget, you can go ahead and use the raise hand feature now, and we'll get you in line to do that when we take public comment here in just a few moments. Are there any other comments or questions from council at this time? Seeing none, we will now turn to public comment, and it looks like we have Mr. Volan, Steve Volan. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to say that I'm sorry for the delay in the statement that I released about this budget coming so late. I've been studying the issue for several weeks, but many issues have intervened, and only now was able to release it yesterday. I don't expect council to make any action as a result of it, but I just want to make sure I had my facts straight, and I wanted to make sure that I registered my opinion on the record. I wanted to read excerpts from it now. Considering the rancor over annexation and the many difficult interactions that city and county have had since then, I'm sure that people outside the jurisdiction of Bloomington will find any objection to the new budget of the Fire Protection District coming from a city council member like me to be rich. I get that. It's easy to forget that while incorporated places like cities have additional powers, we're county residents too, and we have concerns about county budgets. But I also want to point out that I do not always side with the mayor who pushed annexation. And had I been at last week's meeting, which I couldn't attend, I would have voted against the city's 2021 budget. So this is coming from me. But my question is, why would you approve a budget like this? I've been looking at their numbers and comparing it to the Bloomington Fire Department and trying to wrap my head around their budget and not understanding why you would approve something like it. They proposed an $11.9 million budget for their inaugural year as a large entity. The category 1 portion of their budget is $9.67 million. That's 81.1% of their budget devoted to personnel. For that, they, according to their budget document, they're going to employ 48 full-time firefighters and 27 FTEs for a total of 75 FTEs. Well, the city budget is $12.3 million. It's only 3% larger this year. Our personnel budget is $9.97 million, which is also exactly 81.1% of our total. But for that money, we employ 110 people, 99 of whom are line firefighters. So we put 32% more firefighters on the ground for the same money. Of the Fire Protection District's proposed 24 other employees, more than half are some kind of chiefs. We manage our department with 1 chief, 1 deputy, 4 battalion chiefs. Our chief has said we could probably use another deputy or battalion chief, so we could use 7. We have 6. They're going to have a chief, 4 deputies, 6 battalion chiefs, and 3 assistant chiefs to protect fewer buildings despite the greater area outside the city, and to protect a population that's half the city's. I don't see what special training it takes to fight fires in rural areas that would justify this significantly greater amount that they're proposing to expend. I don't know what expense I'm missing that explains it. And this is an apples to apples comparison. I think it should give you the same pause it gives me. There's been a lot of hubbub outside the city about the evils of annexation, about how high the taxes will be. But I feel like if council approves this budget, it'll be putting the lie to that argument, because it demonstrates that the anti-annexation crowd was never really angry about higher taxes. It just feels like, and I don't attribute personal animus to any member or anyone proposing this. I just feel like people who are arguing against annexation are doing so out of a kind of spite. And this would make it a very expensive kind of spite, because it would increase costs for city residents by creating competition in the local market for the public service, just so that unincorporated residents can kick the can of annexation down the road. All I know is that we are a top 1% fire department in the state. We have an ISO rating of 2, and we're doing it for the same amount of money that the is proposing to spend. And we don't think that it should cost anywhere near what the MCFPD is proposing. And to highlight this, forget annexation for a minute. What if the county were to ask for contractors to provide fire protection? For $12 million, the Bloomington Fire Department, demonstrably from our budget that's been approved for 2021, could put 32% more firefighters on duty, and I think with higher standards of service, including faster response times. So my question is, why not cut this budget by 10%? That's roughly how much more this seems to be being spent for, and even then it wouldn't be providing the same level of service. But I feel like you should make the FPD come back with a better, more cost-effective plan for protecting the people who are so eager to remain unincorporated. But if you want to contract it out to the city, I think that the city would be happy to tender a contract proposal, because the money that you're proposing to spend is, comparable to what we do already. That's my comment. I appreciate your time listening. I know, again, this is coming at the last minute, and I frankly don't expect you to change course here, but I felt it incumbent upon me to put on the record that this is an apples to apples comparison, and it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know if it makes sense to you. I'd like to hear what the FPD or county council members think. Thank you for your time.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Volan. Our practice is not typically to engage in question and answers during public comment, but I do want to, I think we may have some council members here who would like to respond, and I'm happy to accommodate that. It appears that we have our chief, our fire chief, Dillard, here on the call, and it may be good to get him. Yes, and he's been added as a participant here, a panelist. Mr. Dillard, would you like to provide any commentary?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to take a look at the letter Mr. Volan submitted, and there's just some factual issues with it, and I don't believe that it's any mistake on his part. I think he was given some poor information or perhaps misled some. Our budget clearly details 95 full-time equivalent positions total. Now, yes, 27 of those are full-time equivalents, but as mentioned in our previous meeting, 14 of those will be converting to full-time thanks to a federal grant. But the 77, 110, that's not apples to apples. If you want apples to apples, it's definitely 110 to 95. One question that was brought up was in regards to this chief staffing, and I want to make it clear, very clear, that there are 5 separate reports that the fire district has utilized for this structure and the salaries and whatnot that go in it. And it's funny because 3 of those reports directly involved Monroe County. And the most recent report completed by Novak was funded by the city of Bloomington, and it recommended 9.5 folks in the front office of the Bloomington Fire Department. Now, the fire district's requesting 11, but keep in mind, unlike the city, we're responsible for our own human resources, accounting, IT, several other various tasks. So, we looked at the national standards for what we thought needed to take place in Monroe County. And if you look at the Novak report for the city from August of 2020, this year, the 9.5 in the front office is very similar to the 11 we have with the additional geographics. And quite frankly, I think they would probably benefit additionally from some additional inspectors for plan review and whatnot, because the city, it does have a lot going on. There is a salary discrepancy in this. The starting, not the starting salary, but the first class salary for this budget is $60,000. And that's been discussed for over a year and a half now. And those numbers were driven from a 2019 White River Township Fire Department study that looked at 9 counties, most of them comparable to Monroe. It's difficult for Monroe to have a similar study because the counties that surround us are not quite the same in regards to fire protection. But if you look at Johnson County and some of the others, they're very similar. And quite frankly, the average of those was $61,460. We're about 3% below that. So I think the appropriate question would be, and the appropriate question directed towards the city council and the city administration is, why are Bloomington Fire Department firefighters being compensated 13% less than the average of comparable fire departments in the state? And this is something that I know the city has worked on in negotiations, and the firefighters have presented these reports and this information, and it's fallen on deaf ears. The structure of this organization, as far as the apparatus and recommendations, that dates back to a study that was even occurred in 1970. And believe it or not, the station locations for the county were followed back then. The townships that created stations that merged into the district located those stations very similarly to what that report recommended. And BFD is actually operating at staffing and equipment levels that were detailed in that 1970 report. The last report that was done on fire service around here was in 2013. And we are actually meeting the ideology behind that report, even though it wasn't directed straight towards the fire district. But it did recommend an additional fire station in the city of Bloomington and an additional battalion chief. Now, currently, there is an individual being pulled off of a rig and used as what the city is calling a duty officer. So they are functioning with 2 individuals that operate in a similar manner as the battalion chief. But remember, when this merger is done, Mr. Volan made a good point about the size of this. Geographically, we'll be covering 77% of Monroe County. That's a lot of mileage. Now, we would all love to meet every NFPA standard out there. But what Mr. Volan proposes, if we wanted to have a 4-minute response time everywhere in the county, you would literally need a fire station every 8 minutes of road travel so that each station could respond and get there in 4 minutes. That is absolutely not feasible. That's why NFPA has a second standard, and that's 1720, which is what the fire district meets. And in most areas, we do meet 1710, but in certain areas, we do meet 1720, which is more designed for those rural departments. Really, with Mr. Volan's comments today, that's really all the follow-up I have. The letter did indicate some issues at the Wickens fire that I'd like to address. First off, engine 22, which is the first due engine, they arrived in 4 minutes and 47 seconds. They were able to size up, and they reported immediately that 3 structures were involved, and they requested additional units. The only additional units that they requested were engine 5 and truck 1 from the city of Bloomington. Keep in mind, station 21 was en route, but they are not the next due station. If you want to look at the 2021 fire district, you got to look at station 29, which is over by the airport. And they were second to arrive on the scene that day. BFD did end up sending 3 rigs down, which included 12 firefighters, 2 battalion chiefs, or one of them referred to as a duty officer. And Monroe Fire District had 27 personnel on that scene. As far as the building construction issues that I had outlined, that came from the Monroe County Fire Investigation Task Force, in which 2 Bloomington fire investigators, 2 from the fire district, 1 from Ellettsville, 3 from the state fire marshal's office, and a few others joined us to evaluate that scene and determine that the fire had started on the north end of the main structure and had spread rapidly through the attics that were only protected by blue board and vinyl siding. I don't want there to be any distraction from the fact that there are some fire concerns in these neighborhoods. They do meet building code, but the building code is very, very, very difficult to change because the state of Indiana requires fire code to go through the state fire commission. And you can ask any fire investigator or fire inspector out there, our fire codes are very laxed, and that's unfortunate. But there is nothing any municipality or the fire district can do about that. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Chief Dillard, for that information. I want to check now and see if there's any council members who have some follow-up comments or questions as well. Mr. McKim.
Sorry, thank you, Chief. I guess, could you talk a little bit more about the assertion, essentially, that there are too many chiefs that was made by Councilmember Volan, and in particular talk about the structure and also the role of the battalion chiefs in particular, because I think there might be some misunderstanding that the battalion chiefs aren't line firefighters. So I just want to make sure that you clarify that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's just look at it as the departments currently are before January 1. This budget proposes 2 less fire chiefs. It proposes the same amount of deputy chiefs that currently exist, and it proposes 1 additional assistant chief. So there's a reduction of 2 fire chiefs in this budget. The fire chief obviously oversees the department. The 4 deputy chiefs have specific tasks. 1 fire chief is responsible for, or 1 deputy chief is responsible for fire operations. A second's responsible for special operations, which in the fire district is substantially more than the city of Bloomington. The fire district will become the regional hazmat team. They provide rope rescue services, marine firefighting services, wildland fire services to the national forests. Aircraft rescue at the Monroe County Airport becomes the fire district's responsibility. The special operations chief will oversee all of those specialties plus EMS, which is a large portion of what the fire service does. And that's a big portion of where the fire service makes an impact in people's lives. The 3rd deputy chief, 2 of them were repurposed. The 3rd is honestly a very, very milestone step for this community. And honestly, the state of Indiana is a community risk reduction chief. That individual looks at specifics that are occurring in neighborhoods, in our communities, and they look at how we can reduce those emergencies. We're not talking just fires. We're talking slips and falls, heat exhaustions, thousands of different medical issues or emergencies that occur, downed power lines, trimming trees back, lots of important items that help us reduce the amount of 911 calls, protect our citizens beforehand, not in the reactive measures that the fire service and law enforcement agencies typically are. The 4th chief will oversee facilities and capital assets. We're going to have 7 fire stations, almost 50 pieces of equipment. That's a lot. You go to replace those equipment and we spend time doing bid processes and whatnot, there'll be several months tied up dedicated simply to fire apparatus. Not to mention the fire district will oversee its own maintenance, repairs, construction projects. That chief's dedicated to those services. The assistant chiefs, 1 will be in charge of training. The 2nd will be in charge of human resources. And the 3rd will take care of equipment such as the small hand tools, turnout gear, SCBAs, and all the other millions of dollars of equipment that the district has in small hand tool assets. So that pretty much summarizes the chief officers. Now, we do have 1 fire marshal, we do have an IT specialist, and we do have a mechanic in this budget. But the battalion chiefs are often misunderstood. When you think of someone like myself preparing a budget, sitting in the office, fielding phone calls and whatnot, dealing with meetings like this, Battalion chiefs are dedicated solely to operations. They're on the clock 24/7. They run command of fire scenes so that there is a chief officer immediately there. Currently in the townships, we respond from home in the evening. In fact, we had a fire at 4 o'clock this morning. Chiefs get the alarm from home, they hop in their rigs, and they head to the scene. These individuals will be dedicated around the clock to receive citizen inquiries or concerns, follow up on insurance claims or insurance quotes. We go and look at hydrant locations and verify where the nearest fire departments are for people. These individuals are not what you would think as far as a desk chief. They are in the field. The chief rank can commonly be misunderstood. They're simply one level above a captain.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, Mr. Deckard?
Thank you. I just have a quick one for the chief. Can you do that territory percentage again? That the district covers, did you say 77%?
Yeah, as of January 1, 2021, the fire district will protect 77% of Monroe County. That'll be unincorporated Perry, Bloomington Township, and Salt Creek, and unincorporated Van Buren, along with Indian Creek, Polk, Benton, and Washington. The only townships and unincorporated areas the fire district won't serve at that time are Bean Blossom and Richland Township.
Thank you. I have a comment for later, but I want counselors to get their questions out. Thank you.
I saw Mr. Iverson first and then Ms. Munson.
Chief Dillard, thank you for being here tonight, and Councilman Volin, I appreciate your comments too. One of the issues that Councilor Volin raises, that he actually requests, is that we let the city bid on this issue. And you know, if you go to your website, you've done an awful lot of due diligence heretofore. You've had a lot of listening sessions, and you've also published the financial statements on your website. Can you kind of walk the public through everything that you've done heretofore to make sure that Washington Township, Benton Township are going to be at least on board, and they've had a chance to voice their concerns and been able to look at the financials?
Yeah, so real quick, I guess just start with some civics. The fire district is actually a municipal corporation. It is not actually a part of the Monroe County government. There's binding review by the county council, and the commissioners appoint the board, but the fire district itself is a separate entity from the county. They are solely charged with providing fire protection. Now, they obviously could do away with their department and bid with someone, but there are fire districts all over Indiana reversing that. They are starting their own fire departments. They're operating like we are. That is by far the common trend. So the county council, the county commissioners, they wouldn't really even have any authority to contract out with the city of Bloomington. That would be with the fire district board. The council simply reviews the budget. They would review the budget. If the fire district board were to contract with someone, that contract and the budget for that would come before this council, and you would approve it, a thumbs up or thumbs down. That's the way that the process works for us here. But as far as the mergers, Indian Creek Township came forward first. Vicki Sorensen was the trustee at the time. She's now a board member. They said, we want to join the district. It was a learning curve for everyone. We found that a certain percentage of landowners had to be petitioned. They had to sign in favor before we could even start the process. Once that occurred, we had to have at least 3 public meetings. Those 3 public meetings allowed the public to see the fiscal impact, which the reports are available on the website. It allowed them the opportunity for questions and answers. And obviously the fire district office's phone line is always open during business hours to take any additional questions or concerns in. But we've had 3 meetings for Indian Creek, 3 for Van Buren, 3 for Bloomington Township, 3 for Benton. We've had 3 for Washington at this point, even though that process isn't closed out. We're going to have 1 additional meeting for that process Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on Zoom. If you go to monroefd.org, you'll be able to click the link and observe that meeting. So if you have any questions about the future mergers or the current status of the district, please join us Saturday morning. But no, this has been a very involved process, and these figures have been out there in a lot of areas.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief Dillard.
Councilmember Munson. You need to unmute your mic.
Thank you. I'm very happy to have Chief Dillard here to provide additional information. And for the public that is watching, if you would have any question about cost or response time, this is something that I know the Fire District Board would want to have evaluated. And I would like Chief Dillard just to tell us his thoughts about response time from City Fire, and also how the city would handle the all the equipment that they would need for to provide contracted services. I'm thinking fire trucks, water tanker trucks, and of course fire stations. So I don't see this as a likely competitive forecast for us, but I would like to hear from Chief Dillard on this.
So, I mean, first off, I want to state that, you know, in the past, there's been some type of contest, if you will, between the township firefighters and the city firefighters. And I want to say, first off, they're both top notch. The firefighters that responded to Wickens were amazing. They knew we were going to be calling. They jumped in the trucks. They got it headed that way early. And that's what I expect our folks to do. And I've seen them do. But in these rural areas where there's less water, the fire district employs pumper tankers. So every piece of apparatus has at least 1,000 gallons of water on it. And that's so that we can provide fire protection services before the next fire apparatus arrives. Many of our apparatus have 1,500 to 2,000 gallons of water on them. And that's because we're responding to a majority of area that does not have hydrants. Monroe County Fire Chiefs Association actually 2 years ago established a safe structural firefighting procedure for Monroe County. And in that procedure, we detailed an urban, suburban, and rural zoning. So the fire chiefs have looked at each of their areas and they've classified those areas based on whether they were urban, which is mainly having water, suburban, which was having water, but a little bit more distance between structures, and then rural, where there is no water. Those zones will be applied for January 1 of 2021, and the equipment is detailed in that procedure, what responds to urban areas, what responds to suburban areas, and what responds to those rural areas. So, you know, as far as the city response time, the response time that we had at Wickens was absolutely phenomenal. But keep in mind, it was about a 5-minute response time for engine 22 by Kroger South. And it took just under 9 minutes for the engine from City Station 5 to respond behind Bloomington South. So that would be the closest station if Station 22 were out of service. And you're looking at an approximate 4-minute increase in that time. Now, in that specific fire, in the investigation portion, we were able to obtain video from a doorbell monitoring system. And we know that that fire went unchecked and unnoticed for over 10 minutes. So in that specific situation, perhaps that 4-minute additional response time from City Engine 5 would not have made a difference. But for an early cot fire or a room and contents fire or a medical emergency, you know, that's certainly a major difference. Now, one thing I'd like to clarify, it's easy to look at this on a local level, but we got to take a 30,000 foot approach. And the reality of it is this isn't a local problem. Every municipality has a border, every county has a border, every state has a border. There are exemptions in state code that allow for out-of-state firefighters to respond into this state and firefighters to respond out of this state with different state certifications, because there are areas where fire stations may be crossing state lines because they're the closest ones there. And that is the broad goal of the fire department in this nation, is to send the closest units available. And we're going to continue to do that. In January 1 of 2021, the nice thing about this merger, it allows us to really do that. the township lines are erased and we're able to put in, hey, we want the closest station to be sent. So some have asked, what are the benefits for Perry Township? One of the biggest benefits is going to be that northwest corner where Van Buren Township is closer to you than Station 22. If you're in Indian Creek Township in that northwest side, Station 39 is going to be closer to you than Station 23. So January 1, lots and lots of positive changes coming.
Okay, thank you. I think Chief Dillard, earlier you made an important distinction that it's not the council or the commissioners that can enter into any kind of a contract with the city of Bloomington for fire protection. It would have to be done with the Fire Protection Board. And this may be a question for Mr. Volan too. And I want to make it clear that I appreciate the information that Mr. Volan brought forward. I think we've had a very good discussion here tonight. To either one of your, are we aware of any, has the Fire Protection Board been approached by the city for any type of contractual services or anything of that nature? Are you aware of any of that?
Whom are you asking?
Either, whoever would like to go first.
I didn't know I had the privilege to speak. I was speaking as a member of the public. I appreciate the chance to respond. Just to be quite blunt, I don't actually expect, nor am I seeking for the city to perform this service. I'm simply saying that, I looked at the budget numbers that they proposed and I compared them to ours over the past month while I was thinking about the city budget. So, I'm the city.
The letter that I read, I think it said let us do it rather than the Fire Protection District.
Right, but I mean, again, that's that's not actually. I mean, it's a rhetorical statement. I don't expect everyone to drop on a dime and suddenly. I'm just saying. I'm calling into question the assertions Chief Dillard has made. The numbers presented in the budget. Like one thing I haven't heard is how many firefighters are going to be on the ground in this budget. And right now, what I count is 75 FTEs. We have 99. And that's the basis of my letter. Like, why does it cost so much more to put 32% fewer firefighters on the ground? And I understand some of his arguments because he has to reproduce some of the aspects of that we have a fleet division in Public Works to manage the repair of vehicles like fire trucks. They have to have their own because they're an independent district. I get that. It's going to be more cost there. But the bottom line still comes that there's the same amount of personnel as a proportion of the budget, same amount of money being spent, but a lot fewer firefighters. There are some network effects to being a city. We have other departments like HR and IT that do the sort of things that he has to hire a separate person for. And so if you take that into account, I'm simply saying the city could, in theory, provide similar, if not superior service, in my personal opinion, but I'm not asking the county council or the MCFPD Board of Trustees to do it. I'm simply calling attention to these numbers and asking for answers. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again.
Thank you. Mr. McKim?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would actually like to hear Chief Dillard repeat the number, the apples to apples comparison he made at the beginning, because I had trouble following that, and I think others might as well. So the statement has been made that for a given amount of essentially a given budget, the city puts 99 firefighters on the ground, and the district will put for that essentially that same budget 75. So I guess I'd like to hear the apples to apples comparison. Can you walk us through that again, please, Chief Dillard?
Yeah, so I mean, you can't really get an apples to apples comparison because the way we operate is different. The city administrative chiefs do not respond on emergency calls on their time off. Our operational chiefs do. There are only 2 chiefs who are administrative only. The other operational chiefs take turn on call. They respond on calls. They serve on fire scenes. So you take those individuals, you add in the 6 battalion chiefs, you add in the 48 career folks he's talking about, and the 27 full-time equivalents, and that's your number. And that's going to be
Okay.
88 firefighters. So 88 to 99. He's correct. They have 11 more on the street.
Good. Thank you. That was helpful.
Yes, thank
I
you.
didn't follow that before.
Councilmember Munson. Need to unmute your microphone, please.
This is a question for Chief Dillard. Do the FTEs include fire department volunteers?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Do the FTEs include the volunteer firefighters?
No, it does not. Those are paid positions staffed in the stations.
Okay.
The volunteer ranks can fluctuate. I wouldn't be comfortable
course.
telling you exactly how many would respond, but I can tell you, you would probably get 5 to 10 volunteers responding on a structure fire. Another point that Deputy Chief Cornwell just pointed out to me, the city numbers are based off of 5 staffed per rig. Our numbers are based off minimum staffing of 4. So when a city firefighter on that rig takes off, they're still leaving 4 individuals on that piece of apparatus. So you really have to look at the minimum amount of numbers that the city might put out there. And essentially that's about the same number on the street, because you've got 5 engines and a truck. So there's 27 folks, which is mirrored what the fire district has. And that's a very important note. Minimum staffing is the most important number to know on these NFPA standards. It's not just the budgeted numbers. It's how many people minimum you're going to roll with.
Councilmember Hawk.
Yes, I want to first of all thank Mr. Volan for bringing forth these questions. One of the things that I really appreciate about it is that it gives Chief Dillard one more opportunity to present to the public all of this information that we have been hearing for months. And I've been very concerned that maybe the public really wasn't paying any attention because we were getting very little feedback from people. And we were doing everything we could. We were trying to get it in the paper, get it on Facebook, get it on radio, meet with the public, doing everything, trying to get feedback. And so even though it's like, wait until last minute, it did give one more opportunity for Chief Dillard to bring information to the table. We're hearing a few different things. Each time we hear from him, he's just so loaded with all this information, it's hard to take it all in at once. But I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank you, Mr. Volan, for bringing forth your concerns.
Okay, Mr. Decker, did you have a question or a comment?
I did, and I think this probably is as good a time as any. I'll try to be brief with this. I have spoken in favor of the work that Chief Dillard and the district is doing, because I truly look at the county and sort of how fire has changed, how it is evolving, how the needs and where people live, we're really addressing those things. And I think that him being in these meetings and part of this discussion and in those townships having those discussions, I think that is huge. I appreciate Councilmember Volan for coming and talking with us. And again, I think it's good for the public to hear healthy discussions. I think that 77% number come January 1st is a huge number. And I think we need to think about that a long time. I think apples and apples comparisons are very difficult, because I think units of government and units of service have very different things. And where I kind of start with some of this is I remember years ago when I was a congressional aide, I went out to Indian Creek down in Cheryl Munson's stomping grounds, and I was visiting with their volunteer department, which is now part of the district. And they were talking about some things, showing me some equipment. And at one point, they asked me if I wanted to be a volunteer firefighter with their department. And anyone that knows me, probably that's not instilling much confidence for the fine residents of Indian Creek that I represent, along with a few of you others. But I remember thinking back then, for our departments, whether it's city, township, district, etc., for our responders, I think we always have to be coming up with new solutions, and we have to have new things, and it has to be more than, well, Trent Deckard's going to help out and volunteer. I recognize that we are not the public servants that respond to the fires like the one that was about 2 miles south of me that the chief's been talking about down in the Highland neighborhood. I recognize that's not us that respond to that, but I think that as public officials, we have to be on the lookout for the future of this county. I come from an 8-generation family that remembers a lot of stuff, but we have to be on the lookout for the future of what things are going to be like and where our residents go and what they need. And ultimately that 77%, which is a huge county, I think the chief is talking a lot about professionalization and a lot about expanding. And certainly these townships and those residents have made these decisions to get to this point. And I think that's an awesome thing. Of course, I'll be voting for it. And I appreciate all the time that we've taken in talking about these issues, because I think they need to be in these meetings to talk about.
Mr. Kim.
I guess, I particularly appreciated hearing the last explanation about the number, about the fact that most of the management team are actually line firefighters as well who respond. Those numbers really helped me, I think, boil the complaints, Mr. Volan's complaints, down to the district firefighters do get paid a little bit more than city firefighters. That's really what it comes down to. And I think they have good data to back up the salaries that they're offering. 3 out of those 9 counties that are used for
It looks like Mr. Kim, we lost you there. I think you were in the middle of making a very pertinent point and we lost you. And still can't hear. There we go. Maybe turn off the video for a minute. I don't know if that'll work.
Yeah, I've been having, sorry, I've been getting my internet connection is unstable continually. So do you hear me now?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. The point I was just trying to make, did you hear what I said, that basically it boils down to that the fire protection district firefighters are paid a little more than city.
That's where we lost you.
Yeah, and then I think that the salaries are based on a well-documented study involving 9 counties, 3 of which happen to be also the same counties that we use as benchmarks for our sheriff's deputies contract as well. So I think it's a legitimate. It is an area that we compete for public safety employees with. And I definitely don't want, I'm definitely not going to apologize for paying our firefighters, I think, a competitive wage. So I think that's really ultimately what it boils down to.
Yeah, and likewise, as a city resident, that's a concern of mine too. I want to make sure that our city firefighters are being compensated, appropriately as well too, and competitively. I don't want to lose good firefighters there. Any other questions or comments from council members? Ms. Munson.
Yes, I want to thank Mr. Volan for bringing this up to our meeting tonight, even though it was a surprise to have this at the last minute, because I think some additional information has been brought forth, and it's good for the public to have that. I also hope that having the discussion about apples and apples and apples and other fruit comparisons is important for everybody to understand, because there have been questions raised by city council members regarding rural fire protection during discussions of the Public Safety Lit Committee. and how rural fire departments should be considered for having a share of the funding from the public safety local income tax. For 2021, the decision was $0 to any of the rural fire departments. This was, I think, very unfortunate, and more of the public is beginning to understand that the rural residents are paying their fair share of income tax, just like city residents, and they are not getting a fair return on their taxes. And this is not due to anything other than decisions by the Public Safety Lit Committee and the City Council, which dominates our local income tax council. And so this is patently unfair to taxpayers, and the more they know it, the more likely it is going to be changed by the state legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we've had a lot of discussion here on this. I want to turn one more time back to the public to see if there's any further public comment before we move forward with the vote. It looks like Chief Dillard has his hand up, and then Mr. Boland again.
I just wanted to say, I know we're in the Zoom environment, but typically sitting beside me is our 3 board members who are my superiors, and they are on here this evening. I'm not sure if it's okay, if you guys could please give them an opportunity to speak if they wish.
Sure. If they would like to make public comment, they can please use the raise hand function in the chat feature, and we'll make sure that they can provide comment. Thank you. Okay, it looks like next is Mr. Boland.
Thank you. Yes, I very much appreciate the chance to speak. It's unexpected. I appreciate the feedback I've heard from Chief Dillard and from council members. I do want to say that, this is an issue that's become a bone of contention between the city and county, like how, what method of government should we be doing? And, to Chief Dillard's point about, having to reproduce services himself, if the township trust or the board trustees thought that contracting out would be worth doing, the city can provide a more competitive package because of all the departments it already has. That we already manage various services. So like to say that it's not apples to apples, I disagree. I think we can find an apples to apples comparison. I think it's worth continuing to pursue. I would also say, though, that, I question how many of the chiefs that Chief Dillard said actually pick up a hose, who are boots on the ground actually attending to fires. I think that it still sounds like a substantial difference in numbers. And again, I don't think it matters geographically. There still have to be personnel at fires. And while the chief may consider, the number that he's hiring to be adequate, I would, he says they've talked about urban, suburban, and rural constituencies. Well, NFPA 1710 is the city standard. NFPA 1720 is the rural standard. The chief is proposing a new district that will do both. But I would argue that in the areas intended for annexation, which are obviously closer to urban or suburban, that they should meet the 1710 standard. If the FPD is doing that, more power to them. That's great. But I hope that he's not applying a 1720 standard across the board and saying, because in order to, I'm not proposing that 1710 be applied throughout the county. I didn't say that at all. I'm concerned more about the areas that can be served by city water, that could have been served by the city. The question of annexation isn't going to go away. And the questions of Ms. Munson's concern about money coming off the PS Lit. I continue to be surprised at this, at people being offended by the city defending the money that's coming to it. Why doesn't the county take money off the top and give it to townships? This is a question that city council members have not really understood, and I'm looking forward to understanding better. But we're going to keep having this debate until we can come to an agreement on terms. And I look forward to establishing what those terms, we have to come to some kind of an agreement on terms at some point to be able to compare apples to apples. I'll be sending Ms. Munson a fruit basket so that we can compare fruits sometime. And I look forward to breaking fruit with all of you sometime. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Looks like Ms. Sorensen is next. Vicki Sorensen, welcome.
Thank you. I guess I just want to kind of touch base on the public safety income tax. When the townships were allowed to request some funding from this tax, several times we were told mostly by Bloomington representatives on the Public Safety Committee that we should be looking more into coming together as a unit, which then the trustees decided to do that. And in the process, we looked to join the district. Even if we went with the city, their budget would have to increase just like the district budget has to increase to accommodate, as right now, 5 townships coming on board. I just wanted to make that comment that a budget has to increase somewhere, and I think Chief Dillard has done an excellent job in putting out the figures. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brown is next. Ed Brown, welcome.
Good evening. I just wanted to talk about the education aspect of fire service. As I think someone mentioned earlier, we were talking about volunteers. The volunteer issue, if you would check, many of our firefighters start out as volunteers. I've been on the board for a very short time. And during that time, I've noticed that our volunteers then move to part-time positions as positions come open and ultimately go to the full-time position. This is a good educational component of our fire service, which I don't believe the city recognizes or takes much support in. I used to work for Ivy Tech in Lafayette, and I saw the same issues occur there between the city of Lafayette and the township fire departments in Tippecanoe County. And the same thing occurs quite often across the state, where volunteers seem to be the background support group of all our full-time firefighters, and they aspire to move into their professional positions as full-time firefighters. So that's really our backfill, as I think Chief Dillard indicated that we do have several volunteers, and as they become better trained and their positions come open, they move into those full-time positions. That's all I had to add.
Great. Thank you, sir. And looks like the next in line with the hand raised is the Northern Monroe Fire Station 5. If you could state your name, full name for the record, please.
Greetings, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm Joel Baumgartner. I'm the chairman of the Board of Trustees for the district. And I'd just like to express our support for Chief Dillard. We, as a board, were taken through this entire budget line by line by Chief Dillard. And we understand Chief Dillard's vision and the fact that he made promises to all of the emerging entities that he would bring the fire department up to NFPA standards. So based on that, very simply, I just want to express our support for Chief Dillard.
Okay, thank you, sir. And it looks like that concludes all the public comment on this. And so I think we are through with our council comments as well. Unless anybody has anything else they'd like to say, please let me know now. Otherwise, we will have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Miller.
On the motion to approve ordinance 2020-43, Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Terrific. I think that was a record for the time spent on second reading for the fire district. And we'll now move on to the solid waste management district budget.
Council, this is the second reading of ordinance 2020-44 Monroe County Solid Waste Management District budget for approval. Be it ordained by the Monroe County Council that for the expenses of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District for the year ending December 31, 2021, the sums herein specified are hereby appropriated and ordered set apart out of the several funds herein named, and for the purposes herein specified, subject to the laws governing the same. Such sums herein appropriated shall be held to include all expenditures authorized to be made during the year, unless otherwise expressly stipulated and provided for by law. In addition, for the purposes of raising revenue to meet the necessary expenses of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District, the property tax levies and property tax rates herein specified are included herein. Budget Form 4B for all funds must be completed and submitted in the manner prescribed by the Department of Local Government Finance. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval by the Monroe County Council. For Fund 1215 non-reverting capital projects, the adopted budget is $45,414. Adopted tax levy, $45,414. Adopted tax rate is 0.0007. For Fund 8210 Special Solid Waste Management, adopted budget is $2,726,839. Adopted tax levy is $1,912,377. Adopted tax rate is 0.0304. For Fund 8283 Solid Waste District Debt Service, adopted budget is $306,320. Adopted tax levy is $330,000, and adopted tax rate is 0.0053, for a total adopted budget of $3,078,573. Adopted tax levy, $2,287,791, and adopted tax rate of 0.0364.
Second.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from members council? Solid Waste Management District budget? Okay, seeing none, is there any public comment? All right, we will do a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to approve ordinance 2020-44, Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll kind of hunker down here for a lot of reading for the Monroe County budget.
Council, this is the second reading of ordinance 2020-45 Monroe County budget for your approval. Be it ordained by the Monroe County Council that for the expenses of Monroe County for the year ending December 31, 2021, the sums herein specified are hereby appropriated and ordered set apart out of the several funds herein named and for the purposes herein specified, subject to the laws governing the same. Such sums herein appropriated shall be held to include all expenditures authorized to be made during the year, unless otherwise expressly stipulated and provided for by the law. In addition, for the purposes of raising revenue to meet the necessary expenses of Monroe County, the property tax levies and property tax rates as herein specified are included herein. Budget Form 4B for all funds must be completed and submitted in the manner prescribed by the Department of Local Government Finance. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval by the Monroe County Council. For Fund 0101 General, adopted budget is $37,201,143. Adopted tax levy, $20,244,717, and adopted tax rate is 0.2568. Fund 0102, election/registration, adopted budget is $409,782. Adopted tax levy, $58,215. Adopted tax rate, 0.0007. Fund 0124, 2015 reassessment, $778,738 for the adopted budget. Adopted tax levy is $740,239. Adopted tax rate is 0.0094. Fund 0180 debt service, $3,200,000 is the adopted budget. Tax levy is $3,200,000. Adopted tax rate is 0.0406. Fund 0183 bond number 3, budget is 0, tax levy 0, tax rate 0. Fund 0184 bond number 4, budget, levy, and rate are all 0. Fund 0254, local income tax. Adopted budget is $2,972,897. Adopted tax levy is 0. Tax rate is 0. Fund 0616, Convention and Visitors Bureau. Adopted budget is $2,031,964. Adopted tax levy is 0 and tax rate is 0. Fund 0702 Highway. Adopted budget is $5,400,773. Tax levy is 0 and the tax rate is 0. Fund 0703 Highway Special. The budget is 0 and the levy and rate are also 0. For Fund 0706 Local Road and Street, adopted budget is $2,970,000 with the levy of 0 and tax rate of 0. Fund 0790 Cumulative Bridge. Adopted budget is $575,424. Adopted tax levy is $2,625,134, and the tax rate is 0.0333. For Fund 0801 Health, the adopted budget is $1,497,173. The adopted tax levy is $505,883, and the rate is 0.0064. For Fund 1310 Park Non-Reverting Capital, the adopted budget is $65,000 with the levy of $0 and rate of 0. Fund 2102 Aviation Airport. The adopted budget is $1,142,662. Adopted tax levy is $776,492, and the rate is 0.0098. Fund 2391 Cumulative Capital Development. The adopted budget is $3,669,651. Adopted tax levy, $2,625,134, and the tax rate is 0.0333. The total in this category is then $64,435,694. The total tax levy is $32,454,954, and the total tax rate is 0.4116. Looking at home rule funds, for the fund 9500 extradition and sheriff's assistance, the adopted budget is $1,219. For Fund 9501 surveyors corner perpetuation, adopted budget is $102,240. For Fund 9502 juvenile per diem, the adopted budget is $300,000. Fund 9503 Monroe County 911 Fund, adopted budget of $1,365,000. Fund 9504 Monroe County Convention Center debt, $636,000. Fund 9505 auditors and eligible deductions, $165,619. Fund 9508 user fee jury pay, $24,500. Fund 9509 user fees juvenile probation, $18,883. Fund 9510 user fees adult probation, $288,600. Fund 9511 user fees project income job, $422,643. Fund 9512 supplemental PD services is $1,024,155. Fund 9513 clerk's record perpetuation is $116,114. Fund 9514 user fees diversion / prosecutor is $155,434. Fund 9515 user fees court alcohol drug, $170,018. Fund 9516 local health maintenance, $177,722. Fund 9517 emergency planning / right to know, $15,900. Fund 9519 misdemeanor county corrections, $14,800. Fund 9521 alternative dispute resolution, $21,000. Fund 9522 sales disclosure county share, $32,605. Fund 9523 convention visitor capital imp maintenance, $100,000. Fund 9524 county offender transportation, $3,000. Fund 9525 local health department trust account, $61,259. Fund 9526 user fees problem solving courts, $49,507. Fund 9527 West Side Economic Development Richland Township TIF, $1,800,000. Fund 9528 46 Corridor Economic Development Bloomington Township TIF, $324,377. Fund 9529 Fullerton Pike Economic Development TIF, $183,433. Fund 9530 Plat Book, $130,185. Fund 9531 Convention Center Operating, $574,688. Fund 9532 user fees cable franchise, $373,501. Fund 9535 PSAP interlocal, $2,247,490. Fund 9544 identification security protection, $10,500. Fund 9552 stormwater management, $1,145,630. Fund 9559 county elected officials training, $30,000. Fund 9571 public safety lit, $3,160,520. Fund 9588 Federal Award Title 4D, $49,910. Total in this category is $15,296,452.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the Monroe County budget. Are there any questions or comments? As we've had a lot of discussion about this over the last several weeks and months, and say it now or forever hold your peace. Mr. McKim.
Thanks. I hope my internet doesn't go down again. Just wanted to comment that, you know, it looks like, in looking through the draft 4Bs, that this budget with the frozen levy combined with the public safety lit looks like we're about a little under $1.5 million in surplus this year. That is not normally the kind of budget I would support. I think that high a degree of surplus is not a good idea for governments to run normally. But of course, we don't live in normal times. And I think with the amount of trepidation that we all approach the next couple of years, I'm actually really glad that that we managed to pass a budget that is has that degree of surplus, because we know we're going to need it. We've already taken that step of siphoning off some of the money in the general fund to put in the rainy day fund. And it wouldn't surprise me if, midway through next year, we wind up doing that again, preparing for 2022. So, but I think otherwise, this is a very solid budget. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Hawk.
Yes, my only regret is that we were not able to get finalized numbers and time for us to all have a discussion to make sure that we were supporting our law enforcement the way we would like to. I know it's coming, we just don't have it in time to get it included there. But I just want to make sure that those in law enforcement know that we're looking forward to being able to finalize that vote and be able to get that included in this budget. How are we planning to do that, with an adjustment later with the salary ordinance, or whether we'll do it at the beginning of the year? I'm sure that leadership will work that out. But I wanted to go on record as saying that I do want to make sure that they know that we're waiting to support that. And once we get all of it tied together and enough time for a discussion. So, and I also would like to say, I thought perhaps Councilmember McKim was going to mention this, but on those home rule funds where we don't have proof with the 4B that they are sustainable, not that I would expect it to say something it's not, but we didn't even actually vote on some of those. We just discussed them during our work sessions. And I think our council president will further address that, but I just want the public to know that we really don't have all the answers on that. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, that's and thanks for that comment there. And I think that, we're doing the best that we can here, and trying to understand what the revenues will look like. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't, predict with 100% accuracy how things are going to look. All we can do, or how they're going to shape up, all we can do is really, look at the numbers and make informed decisions as we have. And that's what I think a lot of us need to base our decisions on. These are incredible times, very challenging times. This entire budget process has been a challenge from start to finish. We started off back in April, I believe it was, with a hiring freeze because we were very concerned about how revenues would shape up, and we wanted to make sure that we could shore up as much funding as possible to be able to prepare for future years. And I think this budget reflects a lot of work and effort and preparing for a lot of uncertainty that we still don't know about. I'm happy that we were able to make some very prudent decisions with regard to the rainy day fund. There's a lot of things about this budget that I'm very proud of. Like I said, though, it's been a challenge. You know, we've never done this before on Zoom, and I think it's gone remarkably smooth, considering that, you know, it's a pretty unprecedented process for us all. You know, this probably won't get a lot of fanfare either, but one of the aspects that I'm most proud of in this budget is the fact that you know, all Monroe County employees now, if this passes, will get a living wage, regardless if they're full-time or part-time employees. And this is something that, you know, I thank my colleagues for working on and really kind of coming together in a bipartisan way. And, you know, we've got over, you know, close to $70 million budget here, and to get, you know, bipartisan support for, you know, a budget, whether it's $60 or $60 million, is almost unheard of nowadays. But, you know, there are a lot of things that we came together for, and we were able to get in place for this. So really proud of that. I'm proud that all of our county employees are going to have the dignity of that living wage. And I think it's a very solid budget. And I think a lot of the decisions, all of the decisions that we made in regard to it were very prudent in planning for the future. And that's our role, is to be the fiscal agents of the county and to make sure that we're paying attention to this stuff. So thank you all as well. Any other questions? Mr. McKim?
Yeah, actually, I did want to just ask, Councilor Hawk made a comment that we hadn't voted on these budgets before. And I guess I didn't quite understand what it was that she was saying on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. During our work sessions, and we were discussing several of these, especially one of the things I looked for when I was reviewing the 4Bs this morning, or this afternoon, whatever it was that we got those, because I wanted to look to see what we were going to do with the convention center, and, you know, with the budget having to do with the innkeeper's tax revenue. And so while those budgets are included to be voted here and approved, what I want to make sure everyone knows with any of those home rule funds, that we don't have a guarantee of, or really any really good guesstimate of what the revenue is going to be, that they recognize that they have to live within the revenue that they actually receive. And just because they have an approved budget does not mean that's how much they can spend. They can only spend, it takes an appropriation, which is what we'll be doing with the budgets, but it also takes the revenue and the cash setting there to be able to pay out the bills. So just want to caution everybody that even though we've passed this budget, if you're a home rule fund or something where you don't have guarantee of your dollar amounts, just keep an eye on your cash balances. Does that answer your question, Councilmember McKim? Yes, no?
Thank you. I'm sorry. I lost my internet cut out about the last 10 seconds.
Just move on before it's gone.
But almost all of it. So, and I agree with that. Okay, that clarified what you were saying. I just wanted to make sure we did actually vote on and discuss all of these during our work session. I just that there were some of them that we clearly have incomplete information on, and you and I passed on a couple of them as well.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? Any going once, going twice? Any public comment? Looks like Mr. Shelton has a comment he'd like to make. Welcome, Mr. Shelton.
raise your right.
Good evening, Council. Jim Shelton with the Chamber of Commerce. I just want to compliment you guys. I think you have been very prudent and very wise in your approach to this. I really like how you're recognizing what the future is going to hold and trying to plan for it as best you possibly can. So kudos to you. Thank you for all the hard work. And it's almost over. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment before we have a roll call vote? Seeing none, we'll
Question.
yeah, we'll take a vote now.
On the motion to approve ordinance 2020-45, Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
All right. Congratulations. And we will now move on to the salary ordinance.
Council, this is the second reading of ordinance 2020-46-46A, 2021 salary ordinance for elected officials for your approval. Pull this up here. Dum, dum, dum. Ordinance 2020-46A, whereas the Indiana legislature adopted Indiana Code 36-2-3 et sec, which established the Monroe County Council as the governing fiscal body of Monroe County. And whereas Indiana Code 36-2-5-3 grants the Monroe County Council the power to 1, fix the number of officers, deputies, and other employees. 2, describe and classify positions and services. 3, adopt schedules of compensation. And 4, hire or contract with persons to assist in the development of schedules of compensation. Whereas the Monroe County Council wishes to establish compensation schedules and pay policies, now be it ordained by the Monroe County Council of Indiana that this ordinance affixes the number of and compensation for elected officials of the county from the period of January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2021, whose salary is comprised of funds payable from any county fund or budget as provided by Indiana Code 36-2-5 et sec, and are hereby solidly fixed, and the following maximum level of salary is shown for the salary compensation grids. All payments made pursuant to this ordinance are contingent upon the strict compliance with and adherence to the Monroe County Personnel Policy Handbook. For elected officials, time worked on or after January 1, 2021, and prior to midnight of December 31, 2021, shall be calculated and paid within the parameters of this salary ordinance and personnel policy handbook, regardless of when the payment is issued. Elected officials shall not receive compensation above the salary range authorized for their position in the elected official salary compensation grid. The county auditor shall not issue pay warrants for pay that exceeds the authorized amount specified in the salary ordinance. The compensation amounts listed are an annual appropriation amount. Calculation of the biweekly rate may result in a slight variation and will not be adjusted at year end. Presented to the County Council of Monroe County, Indiana by induction in full for the second time and adopted this 20th day of October 2020 by the following vote.
Second.
All right. Any questions or discussion, Mr. McKim?
Yes, Council, I'd like to move we amend the salary ordinance to add after the phrase personnel policy handbook, the words as it exists on October 20th, 2020.
It looked like,
I'll second that.
okay.
And the purpose is just so we know what personnel policy handbook we're actually working with at the time that we pass this.
Okay, so we have a motion, Mr. McKim, to add the phrasing. Could you repeat that again, Mr. McKim?
Add as it exists on October 20th, 2020.
Okay, personnel policy. Any questions or discussion on Mr. McKim's motion, Ms. Wiltz?
I just want to clarify because that the phrase personnel policy handbook does appear more than once.
In this.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So,
it's the portion that's underlined.
The portion that's underlined in that first now be it ordained paragraph. Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Is everybody clear on the motion? Do we need to clarify that any further? If so, let me know. Okay, I think we're all clear on it. Any questions or comments? Okay, any public comment on Mr. McKim's motion to amend? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you. And so now we'll consider the amended motion. Are there any questions or comments on the motion as amended? Seeing none, are there any public comment? I don't see any public comment, so we'll have a roll call vote.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor McKim, Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Okay.
Wait. Sorry.
All right. I'll proceed.
Please.
Council, this is the second reading of ordinance 2020-46B 2021 salary ordinance for Monroe County employees for your approval. Whereas the Indiana legislature adopted Indiana Code 36-2-3 at SEC which established the Monroe County Council as the governing fiscal body of Monroe County. And whereas Indiana Code 36-2-5-3 grants the Monroe County Council the power to 1, fix the number of officers, deputies, and other employees, 2, describe and classify positions and services, 3, adopt schedules of compensation, and 4, hire or contract with persons to assist in the development of schedules of compensation. Be it ordained by the Monroe County Council of Indiana that this ordinance affixes the number and compensation of employees of the county from the period of January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2021, including all officers, deputies, assistants, and other employees whose salary is comprised of funds payable from any county fund or budget as provided by Indiana Code 36-2-5 at SEC. This compensation is limited by the following lines and maximum levels of salary shown on the salary compensation grids. All payments made pursuant to this ordinance are contingent upon the strict compliance with and adherence to the Monroe County Personnel Policy Handbook. Outliers, special occupation employees, highway employees, correctional officers, sheriff merit deputies, and probation officers covered under a contractual agreement or whose salaries are determined by state prescribed rule order, guideline, or mandate shall not receive compensation above the salary range authorized for their position in their corresponding compensation grids. The county auditor shall not issue pay warrants for any pay that exceeds the authorized amount specified in the salary ordinance. In-grade supervisors whose pay is grandfathered at the maximum salary level may continue to be paid accordingly. However, the pay associated with a position shall revert to the normal pay schedule when the employee whose pay was grandfathered leaves employment with Monroe County or changes positions. No additional pay raises to the maximum salary level shall be granted without specific council approval. It is the policy of the council at the time of the passage of this salary ordinance to limit the maximum salary level rates to the current number of positions only. The council does not wish to allow additional positions to be paid at the maximum rate. The compensation amounts are listed as approximate annual appropriation amounts, and the calculation of the biweekly or hourly compensation rates may result in a slight variation and will not be adjusted at year end. Compensation paid on or after January 1, 2021 and prior to midnight, December 31, 2021 shall be calculated and paid within the parameters of this salary ordinance and the personnel policy handbook, regardless of when the work is performed. Annual salaries for the Monroe County Public Chief Defender and the Chief Deputy Public Defender, the Monroe County Sheriff, the Monroe Circuit Court Commissioner are all tied or related to the salaries mandated by the state of Indiana for the Monroe Circuit Court judges and the Monroe County prosecutor. The state mandated salaries are amended annually on July 1st. It is the intent and direction of the Monroe County Council that any and all salaries paid by the Monroe County Council which are tied or related to the above mentioned salaries mandated by the state of Indiana shall be automatically amended at the same time as the state mandated salaries. The Monroe County Council recognizes that this is an exception to the general rule for county set salaries, which are generally modified on January 1st. Additional detail, including Defense Services Standards, Standard G, Supreme Court compensation information, Indiana Code 33-39-6-5, and Indiana Code 36-2-3-17 are incorporated by reference. When a year has 27 pay periods, employees shall receive one additional paycheck, which shall be calculated using the 26th pay period method. The 27th pay will be paid at the 26th pay rate for each employee unless changes are necessitated to comply with the compensation policy, including but not limited to overtime pay. The last 27th pay cycle year was 2020. Further descriptions, definitions, and/or explanation of the Monroe County government salary schedule and compensation policies are included in this ordinance for the purpose of clarification and transparency. See section Ordinance Notes. Presented to the County Council of Monroe County, Indiana, duly read in full for the second time, and adopted this 20th day of October 2020 by the following vote.
Second.
All right. Do we have any, I see Mr. McKim's hand. Yes, sir.
I'm just going to make the same motion in the council. I move that we amend salary ordinance in the paragraph, be it ordained following personnel policy handbook, to add the text as it exists on October 20th, 2020.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on Mr. McKim's motion? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote on the amendment.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Okay, and now we'll consider the amended motion. Are there any questions or discussion on the motion as amended? there any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor McKim, Counselor McKim,
We can see him, but we can't hear him.
Okay. Was it me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Sorry, my internet connection is unstable, but yes.
it's okay. Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
All right, very good. Well, that concludes all of our second readings for the evening. And now we'll take some time for council comments. Do we have any council members who'd like to provide comment before we adjourn? Councilmember Hawk?
Yes. I'm sure it will come as a surprise to many that I determined that I was going to support what has happened during this year. I don't always, and certainly with this kind of extra money at the end that we are going to be able to move over to rainy day. In normal times, I would not have been voting on what we have done this year. However, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen next year, 22 and 23. And I think we still have to be very cautious about all the dollars and making sure that we have the money to put in rainy day to prepare for that. And so with that, I wanted to support this budget and what we have worked together collectively to put the numbers together. And I want to say a major thank you to my colleagues for allowing me to be what I felt like an integral part of the decision-making process. And I especially want to thank our leadership, Eric Spoonmore, and of course, Kate Wiltz is she must go on screen because she can carry out the lines for hours. And of course, Jeff McKim putting all these numbers together on, and we count on that so much. But you know, there's always been Kim Shell there in the background, putting these numbers together, getting everything ready for us. And with her help this year with Megan Miller, it has really been a great year to work together. Because we've had so many challenges. But just thank you one and all. And I thank you most of all, the taxpayer, because this isn't our money. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the public. It's the taxpayers that's paying for these things. You know, when somebody says, oh, well, we are going to pay for so much, and they mean they're going to pay for it out of the budget that the taxpayers put the money into. So we have to continue to be responsible and responsive to the public. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Munson.
I will just second all the people that Marty highlighted as being essential to the budget process that we've gone through. And I so appreciate their work. But we have done this on Zoom this year. And I want to thank our technical services department because they made it possible for us to have these meetings and to really communicate with the public and hear from them. And it wasn't always perfect, but it was done right. And from what I'm hearing, people want to continue with Zoom. The public wants to continue with Zoom, even when we go back to having in-person meetings, so that they can better follow what the business of the county council. And I hope this will come about. So thank you to all the people we are working with and to all my colleagues for your work.
Thank you. Counselor Wiltz.
Thank you. I will pile on a little bit. I really appreciate the working environment created by this group, the entire council, as well as our support staff, which are amazing. And in addition to thanking you all for being such great colleagues, and of course, TSD for all of the extra help this year. I'd like to also thank our auditor, who's been very helpful and just providing a lot of the backbone to what we do and enabling us to do it. This is, as always, a learning experience for me. And I feel like I will maybe someday understand everything that's going on at these meetings. Every meeting I learn something new and really appreciate the opportunity to do that. I started out this year when we first had to contemplate what this pandemic is going to be doing to our lives and our economy. Very fearful, and immediately ruled out any possibility of adding anything extra to the upcoming year's budget. And slowly, as we adjusted to the idea of our new, what I think might be our new reality in some respects, not just in do meetings, but also how we think about where we invest our dollars and place them in the budget. I'm really felt a little bit transformed in that. Was excited even to add a cost of living increase that elevated the lowest of paid among our staff, and also elevated the part-time staff to the $14 level, which is to me a bare minimum, despite what our federal government seems to continue to support. So I was delighted to be able to move forward on some of those really important things, even within the parameters of the pandemic and an uncertain future. And I'm thankful to all of you who bring such unique talents to the table and enable us to really get a lot of great things accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deckert.
Thank you very much. And thanks to everybody who has worked so hard. I won't echo all the people that have mentioned, but I do want to add one to it. Our own Margie Rice, our council attorney, who is, Margie, I don't know how long you've been with us specifically doing council attorney work since the transition, but it seems like you've been here forever, and we're grateful to you. I was just thinking about that just a moment ago. When we passed the budget last year, I remember thinking, well, this is the start of a big year for us and all these things. And then I flash forward to all the things that happened in that year. And I know that tomorrow, more things will occur and more things will happen. And hopefully we have better times for the community coming ahead. But as we've learned in this process, it takes people working together. We are in a time where we hear all the time governments, officials, et cetera, whatever, not working together. But the county government, for all its good and all its sometimes not as good, if you think about it, the goals of so many elected officials, the priorities of so many different departments that were added in different eras, and we come to this moment and then we deal with whatever headaches next, and we recognize that and we work forward. I want to thank the folks that work for this county that get things that sometimes we never get. I was having a conversation with a former county employee this morning that is near and dear to me and my own family, and talking about their experience in the early 80s and how things are today. Every day, I think, is a step towards something. We have a lot that we did. We have a lot that we will continue to do, and that's just part of it. But thanks to everyone that facilitates all of this and makes coming in here and voting and knowing what you got to know so easy. And I want to join in complimenting our president, Eric Spoonmore. I feel like our work sessions leading up into our budget and just our process, I feel like everything is about as clear as you can get sometimes the mud of these problems and these issues. And I think that about gets it sometimes, that mud. And we're trying. We're neighbors that are trying for our neighbors, and I appreciate this. So we got more work to do, but I appreciate this moment and all of you in this budget that we have done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ryerson.
Yeah, I'm one of the last people to speak here, and I just wanted to thank all the staff that obviously have helped make this possible. And I wrote some things down as a reflection of this budget process. Starting in about 10 days, I will have been here a year, and this is my first budget process. And this year has been crazy. We got hit with a health crisis with the spread of COVID-19, racial justice crisis, and an economic crisis, and that's pretty wild. Not to, you've already mentioned being on Zoom, and this budget really, to me, indicates that we were paying attention, and this budget to me indicates that we tried to address all three of those crises at some point, and it was really I think was exciting for me is that it was countercyclical. We saw the economic indicators going down, and we were increasing our investments. And one of the investments that I'm really proud of is the investment in human capital. I am really excited about some of the things that Kate mentioned, that we unanimously approved an increase in the cost of living, that we attempt to be wise stewards of taxpayer dollars by putting $3 million back into the rainy day fund to ensure that the budgets in the future are going to be taken care of. And the other thing that really made me happy was that just that immense sum of money that we are investing in making sure that the pay scales for all the employees are going to be competitive. We are really investing in our people, and I take a lot of pride in that. I think that's really important. The other thing that I'm really proud of is the fact that we invested so heavily in health. As many of you know, I have a public health background, and I think that this COVID-19 has just taken us so much by shock. And the fact that in this budget, we allocated funding for a brand new position in the health department, that financial manager is going to pay dividends down the road. I think this is going to be something that's just going to be amazing for our health departments to ensure that they're going to be able to keep the grant dollars rolling in and be able to ever expand those, because quite frankly, this is not the last SARS-CoV that's going to hit us. This is not the last pandemic that's going to hit us. And we need to be prepared. And I think that with the addition of this financial manager and the hopeful addition of those two other positions, the epidemiologist and the environmental health, that we're going to be even better prepared. I also think that this is really exciting to be in county government, but it is also somewhat tragic, the racial justice things that were going on. And we saw that if it hit home with that video that was down at Lake Monroe. And I just think it's just so important that we address some of these things, that we listen to the public. And I just think that was so important for us to do, and that's reflected in what we're doing. We're increasing training in the sheriff's department. We are making sure that there's new social worker in the jail. We're making sure that there's a victim advocate position in the prosecutor's department. It's just so amazing that we're able to do these things. And I think the last thing I want to point out is that we've got a lot more work to do. The economic indicators are not looking good continuously, and I think that we have a lot more work to do. And I think one of the things that's really exciting coming down the pike is what Councilmember Wiltz talked about at our last session, and that is to increase transparency in county government, to make a lot of the data more clear. And we've got some really exciting data here with the JDAI program and juvenile justice, with what the health department's doing, with a lot of the departments that are grant oriented. There's a lot of really good stuff there, and we can tell really good stories. And I'm very excited to be continuing to work with the council, not only on some of these initiatives, but also on the budget for next year. So I know that was a little long-winded, but I'm really glad that I was on board for this, and what an exciting time. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Iverson. Ms. Hawk?
Yes, I very closely came to forgetting to thank our state legislature. If you remember, before this COVID hit, what we had on our minds was we were about to lose the funding for our youth services, to take care of our youth shelter and all of the Youth Services Bureau, because there was this big mistake made, and we were no longer going to be able to collect that money for youth services, if you remember that. And that was a desperate time, and working with the state and going up there and meeting with them in person and saying how important it was. We had money for to take care of the youth of this county and for surrounding counties that also use our services. So a big thank you to them, because that was a big, big help to this county.
Duly noted, yes. And for me, this was my, and I'll just have a few words here. This is my 5th budget, the first one as president of the council. And I can tell you that I learned an awful lot this year compared to previous years. It's a lot of work, no doubt about it, but it's made much easier by having great colleagues like yourselves and all the great staff and offices that we have to support us. And so very appreciative of that. But I wanted to just really give a special thank you to Kate Wiltz for being a terrific partner as President Pro Tempore through this budget process, to Councilmember Marty Hawk for her great experience and the many phone calls and text messages and emails that we traded talking about budget items, and Mr. McKim as well too. And Jeff knows the numbers as good as anyone in the state of Indiana, and probably the entire country. So he's a tremendous resource for us, and you've all been very, very helpful along the way. So thank you so much for all of that. And yeah, I think we've arrived at a really good final product here. I think Mr. Iverson really put it all into great perspective with his remarks. So I won't take up much more time here, but it looked like Ms. Auditor Smith had some words, and then we can move on to adjournment. But let me also say, and I think Councilmember Hawk mentioned this earlier, most importantly, thanks to the residents of Monroe County, thanks to the taxpayers. You know, I've said this before, but it truly is the greatest privilege of my life to be able to serve in this role, to be able to serve the people in Monroe County in this way. And I just very much appreciate that, and you know, look forward to all the success and progress to come. We're not out of the woods yet. I don't think it's going to be all peaches and cream in the next year or two, but we're going to continue to work very diligently to serve the people of Monroe County. So thank you for your faith in the council and in me in this role as well too. Auditor Smith.
Yes, good evening, everyone. It does seem, Marty, a long time since we went up and testified at the State House. I guess it's only been like 6 months ago, but it seems like it's been like 3 years ago with COVID going on. But that was very, very important. And it kind of that mistake, which was done in a previous administration. But I do want to point out that the issue, the hard thing about being the auditor is you are term limited. So when you do spend the time as auditor, you're training all the people to make sure that when you leave, there won't be this issue of this void of information and being able to move forward. And I did want to point out that this year, you know, we had Megan, who was new, Megan Miller, the my administrative assistant to the council. And we also had Bree Gregory, who is our new financial director. And on top of all these things, you know, we've not just had COVID, but we've had all the things we're dealing with COVID to get the money out for the CARES and the FEMA. Then we've had GASB, which was huge, right? First time ever, one of the biggest projects we've ever done financially in this county, if not the absolutely largest. And then now 2 weeks ago, they started the yearly audit. So it's really been a perfect storm of just hardships, really hardships that ran parallel with the budget. But we're going to meet next Monday. Kim, Megan, Bree, and I are going to meet. We'll go back over all the Form 4Bs before we send them to the state. And I've invited Jeff to come and sit with us if you'd like to. But what we will do is we'll check numbers again, make sure that everything is right before we send those off. I just want everybody to understand that you guys don't vote on the 4Bs. That's the auditor's role, is to create those, because that's the auditor's role, is looking at the financial stability of the county and what the cash balances need to be and those kind of things. But every one of you are welcome to come in that day or see us on, you know, Zoom or, you know, through FaceTime or something, you know, to be part of that. But nothing we do we do in a vacuum, or do we do behind closed doors. Everything we do is out in the open, all the financial information. I truly believe in 2 sets of eyes on everything. So I just want you guys to always know that you're invited to any of these pieces that we do. And in the future, moving forward, of course, Bree's going to present at work sessions financial information every month to you, be the prior month's financial information. So I did want to give her a shout out to let her know that how integral she is to this process, especially moving forward. New people tend to think, well, I didn't really add anything this year, and that's not the truth, because actually next year you're going to be doing a huge amount of it, right? Because for a lot of us, retirement is looming and we cannot wait. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Hawk.
What is the day that you plan to turn everything into the state? You have 5 days to get it turned into the state. Does that count Saturday and Sunday? 5 days?
No.
No. So what's your deadline date to make sure it's there?
Well, we've been speaking with the field rep, and things are a little different this year, but you know, they have to have it by November 2nd, but they want it, you know, towards the end of next week. But I think that we'll finish it up Monday and send it Monday. That's our plan.
Right, because they keep reminding us, and they've sent us email after email after email saying, remember, you've got 5 days from the day you adopt it to have it to the state, or
Yes.
we lose our levy. So I just wanted to make sure that we all knew what 5 days they're counting, because if they're counting Saturday,
it's 5 calendar days.
5 calendar days. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further before we adjourn? All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing everyone at our October work session here in about a week. See you then.